Welcome to Freema Audiobooks, where personal growth is built through discipline, clarity, and daily intention. And we're glad you're here for an audiobook that explores what truly separates winners from everyone else. If you have ever wondered why some people consistently move forward, achieve their goals, and rise again after failure while others stay stuck despite effort, this audiobook is for you. Because success is rarely accidental and is almost always the result of habits practiced consistently over time. Today's audiobook is titled Success Habits of Winners, and it is a practical, mindset-focused guide to the daily habits, thinking patterns, and behaviors that successful people share across industries, backgrounds, and circumstances. This audiobook focuses on discipline, focus, resilience, responsibility, clarity, and long-term thinking rather than shortcuts or motivation hype. Before we begin, we invite you to subscribe to Freema Audiobooks, like this audiobook, share it with someone who wants to win in life and personal growth, and leave a comment telling us where you are listening from, because your support helps this channel continue creating high-quality audiobooks that inspire real, lasting success. Before we begin, it is important to know that this audiobook is carefully structured into 8 chapters, each designed to break down the core habits that winners practice daily, not occasionally, to create consistent success over time. Each chapter builds on the previous one, so by the end of this audiobook you will understand not just what successful people do, but how their habits shape mindset, discipline, and long-term results. Chapter 1. Winning starts with mindset. How successful people think differently. This chapter is important because every habit of a winner begins in the mind long before it appears in action. And without the right mindset, discipline and effort eventually collapse. In this chapter, you will learn what separates a winning mindset from an average one. You will understand how beliefs shape behavior. You will discover why responsibility is central to success. You will learn how winners view failure differently. You will understand why long-term thinking matters. You will see how mindset influences discipline. You will learn why clarity beats motivation. You will understand how self-belief is built, not wished for. You will gain insight into mental resilience. You will learn why excuses block growth. You will understand how mindset controls habits. And by the end of this chapter, you will clearly see why winners think before they act. Winners think differently because they take full responsibility for their outcomes instead of blaming circumstances, people, or bad luck. Responsibility creates control. Control creates options. Options create progress. Blame removes power. Awareness restores it. Winners ask what they can improve. They focus on influence rather than complaint. This mindset creates momentum. Progress becomes intentional. Growth becomes possible. Responsibility is the foundation of winning. Beliefs shape behavior because what you believe about yourself determines how much effort you are willing to apply when things become difficult. Winners believe effort matters. They believe improvement is possible. They believe skills are developed. These beliefs encourage persistence. Persistence builds experience. Experience builds confidence. Confidence reinforces belief. This cycle strengthens mindset. Limiting beliefs break this cycle. Winners actively challenge limiting thoughts. Mental discipline protects belief. Failure is interpreted differently by winners because they see it as feedback rather than proof of inadequacy. Failure reveals weaknesses. Weaknesses guide learning. Learning improves strategy. Strategy improves results. Avoiding failure limits growth. Winners expect mistakes. They analyze outcomes calmly. Emotional reaction is minimized. Reflection replaces shame. Growth accelerates. Failure becomes training. This perspective preserves momentum. Long-term thinking separates winners from those seeking quick results, because success rarely appears immediately but compounds through consistent effort. Winners value patience. They accept delayed gratification. They focus on progress, not applause. Short-term discomfort is tolerated. Long-term vision guides decisions. Discipline becomes easier with purpose. Urgency is controlled. Consistency is prioritized. Momentum builds slowly. This patience protects progress. Long-term focus stabilizes mindset. Clarity matters more than motivation because motivation fluctuates, while clarity provides direction even on difficult days. Winners know what they are working toward. Clear goals guide action. Action continues despite mood. Confusion creates hesitation. Hesitation breaks habits. Clarity reduces resistance. Decisions become simpler. Energy is conserved. Discipline becomes consistent. Clarity anchors effort. Focus remains steady. Self-belief in winners is not blind confidence, but confidence built through repeated action and proof. Winners trust effort over feeling. They act before certainty. Action creates evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief reinforces action. This cycle strengthens confidence. Waiting to feel ready delays growth. Winners move with imperfect confidence. Courage grows through repetition. Belief becomes earned. Confidence stabilizes. Excuses are minimized by winners because excuses protect comfort but destroy progress. Comfort feels safe. Progress requires discomfort. Winners choose growth. They identify obstacles honestly. They adapt strategy, they adjust effort. Excuses are replaced with solutions. Awareness replaces denial. Discipline replaces justification. Progress continues. Accountability strengthens mindset. Growth becomes inevitable. Mental resilience allows winners to stay steady under pressure, criticism, and uncertainty without losing direction. Pressure is expected. Criticism is filtered. Emotion is regulated. Focus remains intact. Resilience preserves energy. Stability supports discipline. Winners recover quickly. Momentum is protected. Confidence deepens. Mental strength compounds over time. Resilience becomes identity. Ultimately, winning starts with mindset because thinking determines behavior. Behavior determines habits, and habits determine outcomes. Responsibility creates control. Belief fuels effort. Failure teaches growth. Clarity guides discipline. Patience sustains progress. Excuses are eliminated. Resilience stabilizes action. And once mindset is aligned with growth, success habits become natural rather than forced, setting the foundation for every chapter that follows. Now that you understand how a winning mindset forms the foundation of success, the next step is learning how winners turn that mindset into daily disciplined action, because thinking alone never produces results without consistent execution. In the next chapter, we will explore how discipline separates winners from those who rely on motivation alone. Chapter 2, Discipline over Motivation, How Winners Stay Consistent Every Day. This chapter is important because motivation is temporary, emotional, and unreliable, while discipline is stable, intentional, and powerful enough to carry success through difficult seasons. In this chapter, you will learn why winners do not wait to feel motivated. You will understand how discipline is built gradually. You will discover why discipline feels uncomfortable at first. You will learn how routines replace willpower. You will understand why consistency beats intensity. You will see how discipline creates momentum. You will learn why structure supports success. You will understand how discipline builds self-trust. You will gain clarity on acting despite resistance. You will learn why discipline creates freedom. You will understand how winners show up daily. And by the end of this chapter, you will see discipline as a winning advantage. Winners rely on discipline because emotions change daily. But disciplined systems continue regardless of mood or circumstances. Motivation fades quickly. Discipline remains steady. Structure replaces negotiation. Action becomes automatic. Consistency builds reliability. Reliability creates results. Winners commit to process, not feelings. Progress continues even on difficult days. Discipline protects momentum. Stability replaces fluctuation. Success becomes predictable. Discipline is built through small, repeated actions rather than dramatic effort, because repetition trains the brain to accept consistency as normal behavior. Small actions feel manageable. Manageable actions reduce resistance. Reduced resistance increases follow-through. Follow-through builds confidence. Confidence reinforces discipline. Discipline becomes identity. Identity sustains effort. Growth becomes steady. Progress compounds quietly. Consistency becomes effortless. Discomfort is part of discipline because the brain resists unfamiliar effort even when it is beneficial. Resistance is natural. Awareness reduces frustration. Persistence retrains behavior. New routines feel uncomfortable briefly. Familiarity grows with repetition. Effort decreases over time. Discipline becomes lighter. Strength develops quietly. Winners accept discomfort calmly. Discomfort becomes training. Routines support discipline because they remove daily decision-making and reduce reliance on willpower. Predictable cues trigger action. Action becomes automatic. Automation preserves energy. Preserved energy supports focus. Focus improves execution. Discipline thrives in structure. Chaos weakens consistency. Winners design routines intentionally. Structure becomes a competitive advantage. Consistency matters more than intensity because intense effort without repetition leads to burnout rather than mastery. Intensity spikes quickly. Fatigue follows. Recovery disrupts rhythm. Consistency preserves balance. Balance supports longevity. Winners value sustainability. Progress continues steadily. Small wins accumulate. Discipline outlasts motivation. Discipline creates momentum because showing up repeatedly builds confidence and forward motion. Momentum reduces hesitation. Hesitation weakens progress. Action reinforces belief. Belief strengthens effort. Effort builds results. Results reinforce discipline. Momentum becomes self-sustaining. Winners protect momentum carefully. Momentum amplifies effort. Self-trust grows through discipline because keeping promises to yourself builds confidence in your reliability. Follow-through creates evidence. Evidence strengthens belief. Belief supports consistency. Confidence stabilizes behavior. Winners trust their systems. Self-doubt decreases. Discipline becomes self-respect. Growth feels earned. Identity strengthens. Discipline creates freedom because consistent action reduces chaos, stress, and last-minute pressure. Planning replaces panic. Preparation replaces urgency. Control replaces confusion. Freedom increases with structure. Winners experience flexibility through discipline. Stability supports creativity. Confidence expands options. Discipline unlocks opportunity. Ultimately, winners succeed because discipline turns intention into action every single day, regardless of emotion or circumstance. Structure replaces struggle. Consistency replaces chaos. Momentum replaces hesitation. Identity replaces effort. And when discipline becomes a habit, success stops being accidental and becomes inevitable. With discipline anchoring daily action, the next habit of winners is learning how to focus deeply and eliminate distraction, because scattered effort weakens even the strongest discipline. In the next chapter, we will explore how winners protect their attention to maximize results. Chapter 3. Mastering Focus. How winners protect their attention. This chapter is important because attention determines where energy goes, and without focus, effort is wasted on distraction rather than progress. In this chapter, you will learn why focus is a competitive advantage. You will understand how distraction undermines success. You will discover why multitasking weakens performance. You will learn how winners train concentration. You will understand how environment shapes focus. You will see why single tasking improves results. You will learn how to manage mental noise. You will understand why clarity strengthens discipline. You will gain insight into protecting deep work. You will learn how focus accelerates growth. You will understand why attention equals power. And by the end of this chapter, you will see focus as a daily habit of winners. Winners protect focus because attention is limited and must be directed intentionally toward meaningful work. Scattered attention reduces quality. Reduced quality weakens outcomes. Awareness restores direction. Direction improves efficiency. Efficiency preserves energy. Focus amplifies effort. Winners prioritize depth over busyness. Attention becomes strategic. Results improve through clarity. Focus creates leverage. Distraction is dangerous because it fragments effort and prevents sustained progress on important goals. Notifications interrupt thinking. Interruptions break momentum. Momentum loss delays results. Winners minimize distractions. Boundaries protect attention. Environment supports focus. Discipline is reinforced. Control increases. Focus becomes reliable. Multitasking weakens focus because switching tasks increases cognitive load and reduces effectiveness. Task switching drains energy. Errors increase. Learning slows. Winners single task intentionally. Depth improves mastery. Mastery increases confidence. Confidence reinforces discipline. Results compound faster. Focus strengthens quality. Winners train focus gradually rather than forcing long periods of concentration immediately. Short focused sessions build stamina. Repetition strengthens attention. Consistency improves endurance. Focus expands over time. Patience supports training. Winners respect mental limits. Progress remains sustainable. Environment shapes attention because visual, digital, and social cues influence focus automatically. Clutter distracts. Silence supports clarity. Awareness guides design. Winners control their environment. Focus becomes easier. Willpower is conserved. Design beats resistance. Mental noise weakens focus because worry, planning, and overthinking consume attention silently. Winners practice mental clarity. They write thoughts down. They prioritize intentionally. They simplify decisions. Calm improves concentration. Focus stabilizes. Clarity strengthens focus because knowing what matters reduces hesitation and distraction. Clear priorities guide effort. Effort aligns with goals. Discipline improves. Winners avoid unnecessary tasks. Attention is preserved. Results improve. Ultimately, winners master focus because controlling attention multiplies effort and accelerates results. Depth replaces distraction. Clarity replaces chaos. Progress becomes faster. And when focus becomes habitual, success habits work together seamlessly to produce consistent winning outcomes. As the habits of discipline and focus begin to take root, an important realization naturally follows, which is that success cannot be sustained through effort alone if time and energy are constantly misused or depleted. Because even the strongest discipline eventually breaks under exhaustion. This next chapter explores how winners learn to work with their energy rather than against it, creating progress that feels steady, intentional, and sustainable over the long term. Chapter 4. Time and Energy Management. How winners build momentum without burning out. Success is often misunderstood as the result of endless effort, long hours, and constant pressure. Yet winners quietly understand that progress depends far more on how well time and energy are managed than on how much effort is forced into each day. Rather than pushing themselves blindly, winners become deeply aware of their natural rhythms, recognizing when their minds are sharp, when their focus is strongest, and when rest is necessary to protect clarity and judgment. This awareness allows them to place important work where it belongs instead of scattering effort across moments of fatigue and distraction. Over time, this approach reduces frustration because effort begins to produce results instead of exhaustion. Discipline becomes easier to maintain. Focus lasts longer. Progress feels smoother. Confidence grows steadily. Stress decreases naturally. Balance replaces urgency. Many people remain busy without truly moving forward because activity creates the illusion of progress, while winners learn to slow down long enough to ask whether their actions are actually aligned with their goals. By simplifying commitments and removing obligations that drain energy without producing growth, winners create space for meaningful work to exist. This space is not empty or lazy, but intentional and protected, allowing attention to settle rather than scatter. With fewer demands pulling at them, decisions become clearer and easier to make. Mental noise fades, focus sharpens, energy is preserved, progress becomes visible. Life begins to feel directed instead of reactive. Prioritization becomes a daily practice rather than a one-time decision, because winners understand that attempting to do everything leads to diluted effort and eventual burnout. Instead of reacting to every request or opportunity, they consciously choose where their attention belongs and accept that some things must wait or disappear entirely. This acceptance removes guilt and hesitation, allowing effort to flow into what truly matters. As a result, discipline strengthens naturally because energy is no longer wasted on unnecessary choices. Confidence grows through consistent follow-through. Time feels supportive rather than oppressive. Progress becomes calm and steady. Rest is treated as a strategic necessity rather than a luxury, because winners recognize motivation stabilizes, effort becomes sustainable. Growth continues without collapse. Strength accumulates quietly over time. Structure plays a powerful role in maintaining balance because predictable routines reduce decision fatigue and mental clutter, allowing energy to be spent on meaningful work rather than constant planning. When the day has rhythm, the mind relaxes and resistance fades, making habits easier to maintain without force. Anxiety decreases, attention improves, discipline becomes dependable. Progress feels calmer and more intentional. Structure does not restrict freedom, but creates the conditions in which freedom becomes possible. Winners are careful with their time because they understand that interruptions and distractions quietly steal momentum and fragment attention, even when they seem harmless in the moment. By setting boundaries around their availability and choosing when to engage, they protect their capacity for deep work and meaningful effort. This protection improves quality. Quality strengthens results. Results reinforce confidence. Stress reduces. Time begins to feel aligned with purpose rather than constantly consumed. Burnout is avoided because winners pace themselves, knowing that success is not a sprint but a long journey that requires endurance and adaptability. They monitor their energy honestly. They adjust workload when necessary. They allow themselves to slow down before damage occurs. Balance replaces pressure. Sustainability replaces urgency. Progress continues steadily. Strength builds without breaking. Ultimately, winners succeed because they learn to treat time and energy as allies rather than enemies, allowing discipline, focus, and balance to work together in harmony. Effort becomes intentional. Progress becomes reliable. Success becomes something that can be lived with rather than survived. Even with balance and structure in place, every meaningful path forward encounters resistance, mistakes, and moments of uncertainty, which is why the next defining habit of winners lies in how they respond when things do not go as planned. In this chapter, we explore how winners develop resilience and transform setbacks into stepping stones rather than stopping points. Chapter 5. Resilience through failure. How winners grow stronger through setbacks. Failure is not an interruption to success but a natural and unavoidable part of the process, and winners understand this deeply enough that setbacks no longer shock or paralyze them. Rather than being emotionally overwhelmed when things go wrong, they expect difficulty and view it as evidence that they are stretching beyond comfort. This expectation keeps their mindset steady. Panic is reduced, focus remains intact, momentum is protected, learning begins quickly, progress resumes sooner. What separates winners emotionally is not the absence of disappointment, but the way they move through it without allowing it to turn into self-doubt or self-sabotage. They allow themselves to feel frustration briefly, without exaggerating its meaning or attaching it to their identity, and then redirect attention toward understanding what can be learned or adjusted. Reflection replaces self-criticism, insight replaces shame, clarity replaces confusion. Control returns, confidence survives, growth continues forward rather than inward. Resilience matters more than talent, because talent alone cannot carry effort through repeated difficulty. While resilience allows consistent engagement even when results are delayed or uncertain, winners stay present in the process longer. Staying longer creates experience. Experience improves judgment. Better judgment leads to better outcomes. Over time, resilience compounds success quietly. Many breakthroughs occur simply because winners did not leave the path when progress slowed. Winners also separate outcomes from identity, understanding that failure reflects a strategy, timing, or decision rather than personal worth or capability. By removing ego from setbacks, emotional energy is preserved and perspective remains clear. This clarity allows adjustment without defensiveness. Learning excels. Adaptation becomes easier. Strength deepens naturally. Confidence becomes grounded rather than fragile. Adversity strengthens winners because difficulty reveals weaknesses that comfort would never expose. turning challenges into opportunities for refinement rather than reasons for discouragement. Pressure sharpens awareness. Awareness guides change. Change strengthens capability. Capability builds confidence. Each challenge leaves them more prepared than before. Resilience becomes part of who they are. Quitting feels tempting after failure because discomfort increases and certainty fades. Yet winners understand that quitting freezes progress permanently, while persistence keeps possibility alive. They allow themselves to pause without losing direction. They adjust without abandoning commitment. They remain engaged even when clarity is incomplete. This steady presence protects momentum. Momentum sustains hope. Hope fuels effort. Confidence after failure is rebuilt through movement rather than reassurance, because action restores belief faster than positive thinking alone. Small steps create evidence. Evidence rebuilds trust. Trust stabilizes mindset. Momentum returns gradually. Winners continue forward even while uncertain. In the end, winners rise after setbacks because resilience transforms failure into refinement rather than defeat, allowing difficulty to add strength instead of taking it away. Learning replaces fear. Persistence replaces doubt. Stability replaces chaos. And when resilience becomes habitual, success is no longer fragile but deeply rooted and enduring. As resilience becomes part of the way winners respond to setbacks and uncertainty, another habit quietly emerges that determines whether success compounds or slowly fades, and that habit is the ability to keep learning, adjusting, and improving rather than becoming rigid or complacent. In the next chapter, we will explore how winners develop a growth mindset that allows them to evolve continuously instead of being limited by past success or failure. Chapter 6. Growth and Learning: How Winners Continuously Improve. Winners understand that success is not a final destination but a moving process, which means that the moment learning stops, progress begins to slow even if results still appear on the surface. Rather than assuming they already know enough, winners remain curious, open, and willing to refine their thinking, skills, and strategies over time. This mindset allows them to adapt to change instead of being threatened by it. Learning becomes part of their identity rather than an occasional activity. Feedback is welcomed instead of avoided. Improvement becomes intentional. Confidence remains flexible. Ego softens. Growth accelerates naturally. What separates winners from others is their willingness to admit what they do not yet know, because humility creates space for learning while arrogance quietly blocks it. By staying open, winners absorb lessons from mistakes, mentors, competitors, and even unexpected experiences. This openness sharpens awareness. Awareness improves judgment. Better judgment leads to better decisions. Decisions improve outcomes. Growth becomes continuous rather than episodic. Progress compounds over time. Winners also understand that learning is most powerful when it is applied rather than stored as information, which is why they test ideas, reflect on results, and adjust without emotional attachment. Action reveals truth faster than theory. Reflection refines understanding. Adjustment improves effectiveness. This cycle repeats daily. Growth becomes practical. Knowledge turns into wisdom. Confidence becomes grounded. Improvement feels earned rather than imagined. Change does not threaten winners because they expect it, knowing that markets shift, environments evolve, and circumstances rarely remain stable for long. Instead of resisting change, they train themselves to respond thoughtfully, updating habits and strategies when necessary. Flexibility preserves relevance. Relevance sustains success. Adaptability becomes strength. Growth remains alive. Winners view challenges as classrooms rather than obstacles, understanding that difficulty exposes gaps that comfort would never reveal. Each challenge teaches something valuable. Awareness increases. Capability expands. Confidence strengthens. Experience deepens. Learning becomes inseparable from progress. Growth continues even under pressure. Over time, this commitment to learning prevents stagnation because winners never rely solely on past achievements to justify present comfort. They remain students of their craft, their mindset, and their behavior. Improvement becomes habitual. Curiosity remains active. Success stays dynamic rather than fragile. Ultimately, winners grow stronger because they never stop learning, allowing growth to compound quietly while others plateau. Adaptation replaces rigidity. Curiosity replaces fear. Improvement becomes a lifelong process rather than a phase, as learning and growth continue to shape the winner's mindset. Another defining habit emerges that determines whether success feels meaningful or empty, and that habit is taking full responsibility for one's choices, actions, and outcomes. In the next chapter, we will explore how ownership transforms effort into power and direction. Chapter 7. Ownership and Responsibility: How Winners Take Control of Their Lives. Winners take responsibility not because life is always fair, but because responsibility creates control, and control creates the ability to change direction rather than remain stuck. Instead of blaming circumstances, other people, or past experiences, winners focus on what they can influence in the present moment. This mindset shifts attention away from excuses and toward action. Action restores momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence reinforces responsibility. Growth accelerates. By owning their decisions, winners remove the emotional burden of resentment and helplessness, replacing it with clarity and direction. Even when outcomes are disappointing, they ask what can be learned or adjusted rather than who is at fault. This perspective preserves energy. Energy fuels effort. Effort sustains progress. Responsibility becomes empowering rather than heavy. Winners understand that ownership applies not only to success but also to mistakes, because denying responsibility delays growth while accepting it creates opportunity for correction. Awareness increases. Reflection deepens. Improvement becomes possible. Self-respect strengthens. Confidence becomes stable rather than fragile. Taking responsibility also means recognizing personal limits and making choices that align with long-term values rather than short-term comfort. Winners do not wait for perfect conditions. They work with what is available. They commit to improvement regardless of circumstance. Consistency grows stronger. Discipline stabilizes. Progress continues steadily. This habit of ownership eliminates victim mentality, which quietly erodes motivation and focus over time. Responsibility restores agency. Agency fuels initiative. Initiative creates momentum. Winners move forward even when conditions are imperfect. Strength builds internally. As responsibility becomes habitual, winners gain freedom because they are no longer controlled by external validation or excuses. Direction becomes internal. Confidence deepens. Growth becomes intentional. Life feels guided rather than reactive. Ultimately, ownership transforms success from something hoped for into something actively created, allowing winners to shape outcomes rather than wait for them. Responsibility becomes power. Power becomes progress. Progress becomes purpose. With mindset, discipline, focus, balance, resilience, growth, and responsibility working together, the final habit of winners reveals itself not as a single action, but as a way of living consistently over time. In this final chapter, we will explore how winners integrate all these habits into a long-term vision that sustains success beyond short-term wins. Chapter 8. Long-term vision. How winners sustain success over time. Winners think beyond immediate results because they understand that real success is measured not by temporary achievement, but by the ability to sustain growth, balance, and fulfillment over the long run, rather than chasing quick wins. They align daily habits with a clear sense of direction that guides decisions even when motivation fluctuates. Vision provides meaning. Meaning fuels discipline. Discipline sustains effort. Effort compounds progress. Success becomes stable. This long-term perspective allows winners to tolerate discomfort, delay gratification, and remain patient during slow periods, knowing that consistency eventually produces results that intensity alone cannot. Urgency is replaced by trust. Pressure softens. Focus remains steady. Progress continues quietly. Confidence grows internally. Winners integrate habits into identity, allowing success behaviors to feel natural rather than forced. Discipline becomes routine. Focus becomes default. Learning becomes ongoing. Balance becomes respected. Life aligns with values. Growth feels sustainable. By viewing success as a process rather than a destination, winners avoid the emptiness that often follows achievement without purpose. Fulfillment remains connected to effort. Meaning remains present. Motivation becomes intrinsic. Satisfaction deepens. This integration allows winners to adapt as life evolves, because vision is flexible rather than rigid, adjusting without losing direction. Change is navigated calmly. Priorities are realigned. Growth continues. Success remains relevant. Over time, these habits reinforce one another, creating a system that supports progress even during uncertainty, fatigue, or challenge. Momentum becomes internal. Confidence stabilizes. Effort feels aligned. In the end, winners succeed not because of a single habit, but because they commit to living intentionally, consistently, and responsibly over time, allowing success to grow naturally rather than be chased endlessly. Vision guides action. Habits sustain momentum. And success becomes a way of life rather than a fleeting moment. As this audiobook comes to a close, it becomes clear that success is not created by chance, talent, or sudden breakthroughs, but by the quiet, consistent habits that winners choose every single day, even when no one is watching and progress feels slow. From mindset and discipline to focus, balance, resilience, learning, responsibility, and long-term vision. Each chapter has shown that winning is not about perfection, but about commitment to growth, self-awareness, and intentional living over time. When these habits work together, success stops feeling fragile or temporary and instead becomes something stable, repeatable, and deeply personal. If this audiobook resonated with you or helped you see success from a clearer and more realistic perspective, we invite you to subscribe to Frima audiobooks like this audiobook and share it with someone who is striving to improve their life and habits. You're also encouraged to leave a comment and let us know which chapter or idea spoke to you the most, because your feedback helps this channel grow and continue creating meaningful content. Thank you for listening to Fremma Audiobooks, and remember that success is not something you wait for, but something you build patiently, deliberately, and daily.